Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. I'm your host, Lorebob. Today we'll be talking about Final Fantasy XV, Final Fantasy XV, and Final Fantasy XV. And maybe a couple other things. As usual, this has been a news-light week, so I actually don't have many news topics to share. I'm actually going to toss some of these news topics out in the initial preamble. So, while this is not in the realm of super duper, no really 100% confirmed yet, there is work probably most likely being done on a Spyro remaster, which is probably going to come out on the PS4. So, yay, potentially? I'm not 100% sure how awesome that is or isn't, but, you know, it's something. I was never actually into the Spyro series myself, so I just kind of shrug on that. Hello, Emperor Valerian. Doing a lot better job than your dad, let me tell you. I also want to mention that there's roughly 700 different games that were announced over PAX East. I'm not going to cover all those. Only a couple really caught my eye. One big one. We'll talk about that later. The ESA has finally weighed in against, or I should say in favor of net neutrality. Let me state that as clearly as possible. Against the repeal. So, in other words, on our side. I know what you're thinking. Who the hell's the ESA? That is the Entertainment Software Association. Now, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a video gaming company, organization, I should say, political lobbyist group. I only mention that. That's only news. And I don't have anything to talk about it, really. I only mention it because it is the first time, ever, really, that the actual video game industry itself has directly gotten involved politically with the net neutrality situation. And that lobbying group is currently lobbying to restore net neutrality. So, yeah, but no details sacred. I suppose I should clarify my statement a little bit more. Last I checked, there was no real details. They're working on it. Hello, Corwin. Hi. There we go. That's it. They're still working on that. We'll see where they go with that. I found it funny, though, because if I could just pop in really quick here about this ESA thing. I'm not going to bore you with the entire article they stated, but one of the things that the FCC, or that is to say, Ajit Pai specifically, and his proponents have said is, well, I'm trying to think how to phrase this without, because I don't want to go into details. Let's assume A, B, C. Okay, that's what they're saying. Now, through legalese and through blah-blah-bees, these statements could be stated as correct. They're not in reality land, but you get what I'm saying? The ESA has jumped up and said, okay, let me show you why A, B, and C are legally incorrect, thanks to this specific set of circumstances that we're presuming, specifically when it comes to multiplayer gaming. So, I didn't see anything about a release date, honestly, but like I said, I wasn't actually looking that closely. What else did I have in my ramble thing? Oh, yes. This isn't a beehive. It's the web. Mr. Takahata died last week, too, which really sucks. I don't know how many of you guys actually know who that is. I just thought I'd mention it because that crossed my radar, too. They're experimenting with Studio Ghibli, yes. Studio Ghibli is correct. One of the co-founders, if I'm not mistaken. Words, sorry. So, I'm sorry, I'm staring at Mike Romano's question, and I'm just weirded out by that question. So, let me explain something, guys. About a month ago, several people complained that I was suddenly too quiet on the mic. Now, nothing had changed. Nothing was different. Everything was exactly the same. So I was like, alright, and I just turned up the gain on the mic to accommodate that. Then, I went and recorded some videos. Now, those videos are going to suck, and I'm going to get complaints for the next month, because I recorded about a month's worth of videos before I listened to them, because that's my usual process. I record, and then I do the editing in one big bundle. The mic is so loud it's blowing out with the gain turned up. So I have turned the gain back down, and it's not going up, because... like, it's legitimately bad. Even like muting it, or I shouldn't say muting it, lowering the decibel value just means that it's blowing out. It's just no longer blowing out the actual speakers. It's just, you can hear the when it does that. So, this is the level my mic is staying at, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, so, what the hell was I talking about? Brain shocks. Medical science is continuing forward. We're reaching the point now where we're getting to the point where we have started doing human testing for brain shocks. You know, that would actually make a lot of sense, Dakota. Now, you might be like, oh my god. No, it's okay. These shocks are specifically designed to hit your hippocampus in order to boost short-term memory retention. So, yay. That's something that's kind of cool in its own right. I could try shouting. On my own... things, my volume is fine. I'm filled with fear over audio disparity amongst different viewers. This is the level we're sticking at. I actually sat down and did several audio tests. This is where the mic is staying, the end. Until I move to a new location, this is where we're at. Thank you very, very much, Prog. As ever, those Twitch Prime subs are very much appreciated. Thank you. The revolution will be alive. Now, so I guess we'll do a timestamp here. Why not? Because I don't have anything else ramble-wise to say. Ramble. I do want to remind some people something, though. Obviously, Loreweek tends to cover news, but it also covers topics. And I mentioned that because I have recently opened up a channel on Discord, and I have in the past asked people for any topics for Loreweek, and everyone always gives me news topics. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be news topics. It could just be but a topic, you know? It is at minimum gain, actually. Well, that's not true. It's at like one step up from minimum, but that's where I'm at right now on the mic. I guess it's possible my mic's dying? I haven't seen any indication of that, though, so I don't know. Moving on. Let's talk about cereal. You guys love talking about cereal, right? Cereal's awesome. There we go. No, you just have to be vetted, Valerian. Which means I have to trust you. That's it. That's all that's required to get into my Discord server. So show up for a few more streams. What recording setting? I don't even know how to answer that question. Although I should check something really quick. Nope, my compressor is off, and my noise suppression are both off. So yeah, we are at where we should be. I don't even want to touch that, Ethel. So... cereal, right? I have a small story to tell you, very brief. So back in October, Super Mario Odyssey came out, and it's a freaking amazing game, and I want to play it more. I know you guys don't care, but I have been holding myself back from continuing to play it, despite wanting to and having the availability to do so. I could play Switch games while I'm exercising, and that's, yeah. I have been holding back from playing it because I want to stream the rest of it. I want to stream going through and getting the rest of the moons and doing that with you guys. So I've been like, ugh, come on, I want to play it again because Mario Odyssey is amazing. I loved it. But this came out last October. Now, first thing I did that week was I went out and I hit the grocery store and I was like, hey, they didn't have it. So I hit another grocery store, they didn't have it. Every single time I've gone to the grocery store, this is not an exaggeration. You can ask my sister because I've asked her to look too. Every single time I've gone to the grocery store since then, I have checked to see if they have this. So I went there, gosh, Thursday, Wednesday, sometime last week in preparation for this weekend, and they finally had it. So we're gonna do this live right here. We'll see how good or bad this is. Live on camera. We'll do it this way. No, I got it. Eric's not paying attention. This is very important, of course. The bits are all mushrooms, it looks like? No, those are supposed to be question blocks. Those do not look like question blocks. So those are one-ups. Though, what the hell are those supposed to be? Oh, those are supposed to be fire flowers. Wow, really? Hang on, let's go ahead and close this up real quick. Pattern? I don't remember the name of it, but I am on the correct one. The one that looks like a nubbed circle. Why would I put milk in first? It's ridiculous. Alright, let's see how this is. It's worth noting, I don't eat cereal. I actually bought milk and all this stuff just for this. I don't do cereal in the morning. Because, well, basically because it's a pain for me to do. And I'd rather eat something meaty in the morning. Come on, there we go. Okay. Now we gotta let it wait a minute. Because you can't just start immediately, can you? You gotta let it soak. But it can't get too soggy, right? If it gets too soggy, it's just mush. But if you eat it too quickly, it'll hurt your gums, right? You know what I'm talking about? Fruit Loops, especially. They just scrape your gums, and it's like, ah, you know what I mean? We'll try one bite before it's mushed a little bit. Yeah, Captain Crunch does that scraping thing, too. I'm trying to think what I think of it. So, first thing, it's not scraping my gums. No, this is confusion. So the marshmallows are kind of crap. But that's not the confusion part. I'm gonna get a bite of just the cereal here. No, that's kind of crap too. This is just... Okay, so it's reasonably crunchy. It's not affecting my mouth. The marshmallows taste exactly like Lucky Charms. And the cereal itself is weirdly tasteless. Like, it's not actively bad, but I would expect more than doesn't really taste like anything from my cereal. Let's let that sit for a second. Anywho. Moving on, while we let that sit for a bit. Let's talk about FF15. There we go. Oh, I know, right, Pico? Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I got a guy who actually complains that I eat on stream. Well, now there's some bits in my cereal. What the hell, man? Thank you, Zed. Would you like to put that towards anything? Ignis? Who's this Ignis guy? Yes, the FF... Actually, I need to talk to Roximus about that, but I don't think he's on right now, sadly. So, FF15, right? First of all, the obvious news. They've announced that they're doing a standalone release for the multiplayer stuff, Comrades. And they've also mentioned they're doing more support for Comrades. Actually, I can't Gallade, but Braegwyn can, or Valvidrix can. What does it say they're made of on the box? I don't know. Mixed berry cereal with marshmallows, naturally flavored with other flavors. Whole sugar, degerminated yellow corn flour, rice flour, oat fiber. Anywho. What are you linking me? Oh. You've derailed me. FF15. They're coming out with the Comrade stuff. They're coming out with mod support. They're coming out with... Hang on. Give me a second. Here we go. I actually wrote it all down. Coming out with full mod support. They're adding a level editor to FF15. They're pushing for having this have full Steam Workshop functionality, so the mods will be supported within Steam itself. And then, of course, there's the actual DLC. Now, just about everything I just said is supposed to be coming out this year. The DLCs should be coming out early next year. Number 1 would be the Arden DLC. Number 2 is going to be the Luna DLC. Number 3 is going to be a Star Scourge-focused DLC. And number 4 is going to be a Noctis DLC, which will include anointing. Why would I add sugar to cereal? It's such a weird comment. Also, I don't have any sugar. So, that's the news. I do have a topic here. Does anybody remember early thousands, late 90s? Used to be. There was a fairly simple gaming formula, and it was fairly reliable and repeatable. You'd have a game. It would have usually one expansion, sometimes two. Then you'd have another game. And that worked out pretty well, actually. You know, we got Lord of Destruction. We got Hordes of the Underdark. We got Shivering Isles. I can name other examples. Shivering Isles is more recent, I suppose. But you get the point. I suppose if I was to go back, I'd say we got Mournhold, or... Tribunal, that's what it was called. I always want to call it Mournhold. So, it was, Mysteries of the Sith, another good one. The Baldur's Gate expansions, that's another good one. Hearts of Stone, Blood and Wine. This isn't exactly an idea that's gone away. I feel like that's kind of where they're going with this, is my point. Because, first of all, these are all supposed to be significant story-developed DLCs. Now, obviously not the mod support stuff. But they're supposed to be going in a direction of, we want to continue adding on to the story. They also seem to be going in a direction of... How do I phrase this? I don't know how to phrase this. I just realized I have no idea how to phrase this. It's interesting because it feels like this is an attempt by developers to accommodate executives. Now, that is pure conjecture. But that's what this entire situation feels like. Because we all know the mess that led up to FF15. And there's blame to go all over the place. Let's just go ahead and be clear about that. You know, they're at fault, they're at fault, they're at fault. Those three groups are all pretty equally... Well, that's not true. I mean, those three groups have fault amongst each other. But this feels to me like, okay, well, this is the era of the DLC, where DLCs have become so commonplace and so normal. Why don't we go ahead and kind of try to keep this game active? You know, we'll keep this multiplayer thing going. Will be filled with fear as a result of this. Thank you very, very much, Hourglass. As ever, those Twitch Prime subs are very much appreciated. Thank you. So we have, we got the multiplayer stuff. We've got the continued, there's a word for this. The continued saturation, I guess is the way I want to go with this, of FF15, trying to maintain awareness. There we go, that's a better way to put that. Trying to maintain awareness of FF15, trying to keep it financially relevant, trying to continue pulling financial support into it so that they can actually support the game properly. It feels to me Like, this is basically them pulling what is effectively the inverse approach to what they did with FF13. Rather than making FF13-2, they're making FF15 Prompto, FF15 Noctis, or excuse me, Ignis, FF15 Ardent, FF15 Luna, etc., etc. Now, I personally am more in favor of that particular approach. That is just my opinion on that, because I'm a big proponent of the expansion effect. I call it that for a reason, for God's sakes. I admit I am heavily biased because, historically speaking, virtually every one of the expansions that are a part of expansion effect are good. Usually better than the base game. Now, we'll see if FF15 follows through with this. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Now, of course, the other point here is that this is going to be going on until next year. And that's interesting, but not really surprising. By all accounts, this is going to be the terminus. You know, next year they will finish support on FF15, and then anything future will just be for comrades moving forward. I do prefer meatier expansions. I'll admit that, Ethel. I absolutely. But, like, in terms of priority, it would be like, you know, meaty expansions, and then DLC expansions, because that's basically what we're getting here. And then, like, the actual sequel thing. You know, in terms of priority. For me personally, of course. Mask of the Betrayer, another good example. Now, how do I phrase this? Of course, Ked Viper. You're first on the list, though. I'm glad you volunteered. Thank you for that. It's always difficult to be the first person, but don't worry. Everyone else will get to see your death so that they'll know what's coming. Now, I suppose the next thing I want to comment on here is I've had some people comment on how horrible this whole situation is. It's like, oh my god, stop developing FF15. Why aren't you just working on FF16? Blah, blah, blah. It's worth noting we haven't even had one tiny little bit of news about FF16. The presumption exists that they're working on it because that's how Square Enix has done their work since forever. But we don't actually know anything specific about FF16. It is within the realm of possibility, especially given the fact that Square Enix within the last 3 years has undergone significant managerial changes. They might not be following the old formula at all. I'm not 100% sure where they're going with this. And that's the final thing I wanted to discuss, is what they're going to be doing long-term. You know, supporting a single game this long has been done before in a completely different way. FF13. FF7 Remake. Sorry. The reason I'm laughing, Dream Whisperer, is because there are so many clickbaity fake news sites right now saying, here's Emperor Valerian giving me bits. Thank you very, very much, Valerian. Would you like to put that towards something? Yeah, no kidding, Takoda. There's so many fake news clickbait sites saying, here's news about the FF7 Remake. There's no news. Let's make this very clear. It's all crap. They're working on it. That's the news. Pillars 2, you got it. Give me a second. I don't think anyone's put into that yet. I am correct. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. Thank you again very much for that donation. Yeah, of course they announced it too early. Square is really bad about announcing stuff too early. No, the real news we'll get this year is probably Kingdom Hearts 3 news. I've already said this. Kingdom Hearts 3 will probably come out this year. Sure thing, Zed. Give me a second. No. No, I would not, Anthony. I do not consider that news. Guys, tomorrow the sun will rise. That's not news. It's not. We have already established that FF7R is being worked on. Repeating it at this point is not news. Anyways, it's like saying, guys, I'm the lore runner. I do lore runs. And the next week, breaking news, I'm the lore runner. I do lore runs. No, we already know this. We also know that Square Enix has presence at PAX East, and we know that they have presence at E3 this year. No details yet, so we'll see what goes up with that. Is that everything I had to talk about FF15? I guess that's it. You know, it's funny, actually. This is just a minor thing, but it's interesting to me. that Kingdom Hearts 3 was once again announced too early because Square Enix, right? But the let's phrase it that way. But Kingdom Hearts 3 hasn't actually been delayed. Unlike FF7R, which, well, excuse me, unlike FF15, excuse me, let me say that correctly. Kingdom Hearts 3 has yet to be delayed. We'll see. I'm so sorry, Mandartin. Oh, actually, I do have another topic after this. But, well, no, it's not really part of Loreweek. It's something else. I do Metal Triforce Gamer, but then again, I'm the person who thinks 6 months is the ideal announcement time. It's better crunchy. I would put money right now that Kingdom Hearts 3 will not be delayed. I can say that with high certainty. Based on their production cycle so far, based on the allocation of assets, based on their announcement and marketing schedule, yeah, no. It's coming out this year. How many of you guys remember, oh, I don't know, Oregon Trail? Not Oregon Trail, Oregon Trail. Let me say that as clearly as I can. Yeah, exactly, Melkor. If I'm being 100% honest, I would prefer closer to like a 1-month announcement date. But 6 months, you know, keeping in mind other people, feels like more of a sweet spot. Yes, it would, Anthony. That is correct. Yeah, no kidding, Darkrai. No, that's oregano, Dream Whisperer. The original, Lurker. The original. How about this one? Anyone remember Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? No, not the recent one. No, not the third show. Not the second show. Not the first show. Not the re-released game. I'm talking about the original game. No, actually it is not, Anthony. Why would I care about people? I used to play Unreal Tournament in class. True story. The original Unreal Tournament. Yep, and the mini discs it came on. No, the game, the original game. Rita Rabbit. I was going to mention that one too. Anyone remember Rita Rabbit? How about Number Munchers? There's a slightly more esoteric one. Like everyone's heard of Carmen Sandiego and Oregon Trail, but have you heard of Number Munchers? How about, this is my last one, I swear, Odell Lake. Now, obviously, because I wrote down the word education up there, you know where I'm going with this. But the reason... No kidding, Arglis. The reason... Oh, Math Blaster, that was another one. The reason I'm bringing this up, other than the education thing, is even if I hadn't written education up there, I bet several of you, I would bet money that several of you remember playing those games in class. Am I right? I'm asking legitimately, because I remember that. I remember being on an old Apple IIe. I could picture it. I could picture the room. We had one computer game room. It was the one room we had. It was the new building. They just built it just for this. It was like thrown together. It was basically a big empty room with desks and chairs. Not, you know, very bare walls, but that's where the computers were, and that's where we had the computer science classes. I used to play Homeworld in Homeworld 1 in class as well. That was later on. I bring this up because for a brief period of time there, basically in the 80s and 90s, there was actually a reasonably big push to use video games as an educational tool. Edutainment is actually what they called it for a bit there. And while there was some crap, let's be honest, there were some crap and there was some meh, there were several reasonably decent games that did a pretty good job of actually helping people to learn. And Number Munches is probably the top one on the list for me of that particular thing. But I will also admit the Oregon Trail game is probably one of the earlier times I started getting interested in history. Anybody who knows me knows I am a huge history buff now, and a lot of that can be traced back to that stupid game. Because it wasn't that great of a game, if we're being honest. But at the time, and Odell Lake is another interesting one that got me interested in, well, a lot of things, actually, but biology in general. Reading Rabbit, yeah, yep. What's LGR? That sounds familiar. LGR. I feel like I have heard of LGR. Help me out. It was Hourglass. My point in bringing this up... oh, Lazy Game Reviewer. I have heard of him. I have heard of him. I don't think I've seen any of his stuff. Wolfenstein. I mean, I could list a lot of weird games that got me interested in non-gaming things. In fact, the game that really got me interested in writing and music was FF4. I've already stated that one. Anyways, my reason for bringing this up isn't just to reminisce about the old days, but to bring up the idea of why we don't do more of this. Video gaming, I've said this many times, and I stand by this statement 100%, and I get some flack for this opinion, but video gaming has never been more accessible than right now. Now, it might become more accessible in the future. I don't know I don't know the future, believe it or not. But as of right now, it is easier and simpler to play video games than it has ever been. Now, this is true. This has been true for a couple of years now. This current era we're in, whatever we're going to call this. But yeah, the idea of more games that actually specifically focus on an education tint, that are specifically designed to help people learn or get people interested in topics or get people interested in concepts or try to engage your brain, is the kind of thing that it almost boggles my mind that people don't do it, except for the fact that I can't speak for the rest of the world. But I can tell you right now, one of the larger reasons why this doesn't happen here in the States, and that reason is money. There simply isn't a huge budget for schools, public schools, here in the United States. Now, that varies from county to county, from state to state. But I did a very brief amount of research for this. Most of the more well-funded schools here in the States are schools that have specifically received funding from outside of the government. Usually, the parents of the children who go to that school will basically donate money to that school so they can have nicer things, and thus have better programs, better access to better materials, better extracurricular events, etc., etc. That's just reality. So I understand that this isn't really a financially sound move, as several people have already pointed out. But I also have to point out that a properly done education game, like a game that is actually designed to be educational, could, in my opinion, work very well, especially now. And I actually have evidence for this, believe it or not. I have my one piece of evidence to support my argument, and that piece of evidence is Assassin's Creed Origins. That tour mode is purchasable independently for $30. No, I have not, Hourglass. Hello, Aethel. There's a reason that most people who become teachers here in the United States do so because they want to. Because it sure as hell isn't for the money. Yeah, go ahead, Hourglass. Go ahead. Yeah, there are issues involved, as Takoida points out. This is not... Oh, wow, this looks really weird here. There are issues. I'm not saying that that's something that could just work right now. No, I try to avoid real news, Kid Viper. Or I should say fake news. But yeah, it's not like we need... I mean, Assassin's Creed Origins Tour Mode is this holy crap game. But it's the reason... Let me take a step back here. The reason they were capable of doing Tour Mode and putting it out for $30 is because it was basically piggybacked on top of Assassin's Creed Origins. And let me explain this slightly differently. This is a very common economical concept, where you have this profitable thing to fund this unprofitable thing. I usually refer to this as pillars and supports. Things that are supported would be a better way to put that. But, you know, pillars, right? You have your pillar companies, and then you have these little things. So, and this is actually very, very, very common in the economic world. And what Ubisoft has done here is they have attached the tour mode to the pillar of Assassin's Creed Origins, because Origins sold like crazy. They made tons of money on that game. They are still making money on that game. So they can afford to put out what is effectively a brand new AAA game with the amount of time and effort and polish they put into the Discovery Tour mode for $30 because they can. Because they've already got the pillar it's sitting on, right? Now, that is just one particular method by which they can actually do this in order to try and push this kind of education in gaming. I want to see more of this. I'm just being blunt about this. I want to see more of this concept. You know, I don't want Mario is Missing. I've played Mario. I've beaten Mario is Missing, okay? Oh, God. The things I've seen. But I want more of this stuff. Now, there's other ways to do this, of course. It doesn't have to be some big, massive, amazingly incredible thing in order to... It doesn't have to be a AAA game. It doesn't have to be some fantastic thing. People in chat were already saying this. I wanted to acknowledge this as well. Some classes have basically independently been using Minecraft as an educational tool. Because there are things that Minecraft can teach you. Constructive logic, schematics. I don't mean like crafting stuff. I mean like being able to put out a project in a three-dimensional space. Just doing that kind of a thing will teach kids different spatial awareness and the ability to keep mental maps in their heads. I don't know. There's other things that I don't know the terms for, and I'm fumbling here. But there's ways that resource management. That's another one. There's ways you could use something very simple like Minecraft as an educational tool. Mario's Time Machine's much worse. I'll give you that. You know what I liked best about Mario is Missing? This is a really weird segue. They had a map of the world, but it was done in the style of Mario World. Something about that just made that more interesting to me. I probably learned a little bit about geography in that game. I'm not even kidding. But see, Mandarton, the point of Minecraft is it teaches you rules. I know that sounds weird, but if I break away dirt blocks, and now there's dirt blocks floating in the air, those stay there. But if I break away sand blocks, the sand blocks fall. It teaches you how to pay attention to a set of guidelines or rules. You understand how the system works, and then you know how to use it. That's what I mean by constructive logic. I can use... This sounds so simple because we're all in our 20s or 30s or 80s or 50s or whatever, but that kind of a thing is something that people can really start to learn and really start to understand as a kid and help them to better understand how to move through systems in the real world. So, yeah, I don't know. I got nothing else. I don't want to get into too political. That's why I keep ignoring Scotty Good. I don't want to get too much into actual controversial politics here, because that's a no-no on my show. But fear, apparently. Thank you very, very much, Exalia. As ever, I am very much appreciative of that. Thank you. Thank you. I want more games in schools. I want more educational games that are good. I want more Oregon Trails. I want more Odell Lakes. I want more Number Munchers. You know what I mean? There are crap games. There are crap edutainment games. I have played quite a few of them. But... yeah. I guess I'm a little more invested in this than I usually am. I've always been pretty... I'm gonna dip into the controversial box for about 1 minute, okay? I have been against United States education systems since I was a kid. Let me make that very clear. I have never supported the overall construct of the system. Now, as I mentioned before, the amount of money that any given school... I shouldn't say money, that's not really the relevant part. The amount of effort, the amount of quality any given school puts out into its education varies from school to school. Duh. I have been to bad schools. I have been pulled out of bad schools. I have been to good schools. I was actually really lucky with my high school. I'm not going to tell you the high school, but it was a high school that was not only very well funded, thanks to parents, but also really had a lot of teachers there who really gave a damn. I learned a lot in high school, and I'm grateful for that. But I suppose I've just been getting a little bit more fired up about education recently because last August, my niece started going to school for the first time ever. Now, she's in preschool. They don't actually call it that anymore, but, you know, she has just started going to preschool. You know, she is going to finish her first term soon, and I want her to have a better schooling experience than I had. I remember several teachers like that, Hourglass. I had some good damn teachers. I was lucky here and there. I may have hated 5th grade, but 4th grade, I had a good teacher in 4th grade. Miss Ralston. I remember her face. She and I used to hang out after school, like as in outside of school, just because she and I actually got along pretty well. And you know why? It wasn't because she was some big lovey-dovey arms open thing. It wasn't because we just clicked immediately. It was because I was so angry one day at school. Not for school-related reasons. I was just bringing outside work into work situation, you know. I was so angry, and I was so upset that I yelled at her. Now, I didn't cuss. I'm not a cusser. But I yelled at her, and I ranted, and I ran off, and I started crying. And what she did was she reached out to me, rather than doing what I have seen so many other people in authoritative positions do. She didn't send me off to detention. She didn't fling the book at me. She didn't yell at me. She said, "What's the problem?" She reached out to me. She recognized that I was having issues, and she tried to help me through that. And I respect her for that. Maybe I'm biased because I've played so much Civilization games. What's the first thing you always put? Research, duh! You always put all the focus on research, right? Anyways. Sorry. Dipping back out of the controversial box. Anyways. Don't buy this. It's not that good. It's like Lucky Charms. It's like Lucky Charms. Okay. So, before I chop this off, I am... Yeah, no kidding, Glade. I am going to go ahead and mention that we have kind of a special event here. And I want to pull up this email really quick, because I want to not misrepresent, and I'm kind of distracted right now because I'm an idiot. Suddenly copy wrong. Yeah, no, this is a special event. Just for PAX East. God, I hope I'm going to say this right. So I got an email from Lukas Josevich. God, I really hope I'm saying that right. He's a Polish gentleman. He's an awesome dude. I've actually mentioned him on my stream and on my YouTube before. He's actually at Boston right now. Or I guess I shouldn't say right now. He was at Boston. Let's make that a little bit more clear. And he has been working on... He's the gentleman who reached out to me about a game that I've already posted to you guys. It's called Regalia of Men and Monarchs. An awesome game that I hope to do a full premiere run of someday. I just haven't had time. They have put forth a new game which they are previewing at PAX East. Which, is PAX East over? I'm kind of off my timeline because I've been streaming. It's a new game called We the Revolution. It's set during the... It's set during Paris, during the Revolutionary Tribunal. Okay, so today is the last day, so he's probably still out there. And he has offered me a alpha version of the game to kind of showcase to you guys, which I'm going to do. So I'm going to go and chop off the little recording for this.